All right, folks, we are back once again, and we do have our guest on the line. We do have Dan, the community manager from Hitbox TV, with us on the line. Dan, how are you feeling today, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Today we had that kind of spicy discussion a little bit, or more Zyori rants for 30 minutes about streaming technology. I know you watched at least a portion of it. Talk to us a little bit about Hitbox TV in general, the inception of it, why you guys decided to move into a project in the competitive market that is internet streaming.
Well, basically, what it boils down to is the whole team behind it. The few guys that we are right now, we're all passionate gamers. We're all from Europe. We're all passionate gamers, and we all like to watch the big events. We like to follow the big streamers. We like to stream ourselves here and there. And well, yeah, as you mentioned in your talking points, especially for us guys in the EU, it's at times really hard to watch and to stream. Constant lag issues, stuff like that. So. I guess the whole idea was born out of, well, that basic problem. And we said, well, we have to do something about it and create our own thing if nobody else is going to do it.
Right. And it's an Austrian-based company, is that correct? So you guys are...
Yeah, we're in Austria, exactly.
So you guys are housed out of the EU. Can you shed some insight as to why it is that Twitch has issues with EU lag and how you guys are not going to have that issue? I mean, it seems to me that you should be able just to buy server space wherever. Is being actually headquartered in the EU, does that make a big difference in terms of being able to get stable servers that won't have lag issues for European folks?
Honestly, well, for one thing, I don't really know how the Twitch guys, what their background is and how they operate in Europe, etc. But honestly, it just baffles me how it's not possible for them to bring up a stable service,
Right.
especially considering that they are running really smoothly in the US and the viewership in the US isn't smaller than the one in the EU. So in theory, it should be possible for them to get a really good, stable service up and running. But yeah, I don't know why
Yeah.
they haven't done so far.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to ask a few members, and usually I get kind of a roundabout answer of it's a matter of not having enough servers. We've already bought some more servers. It should get better. Those kind of generic we're working on it kind of answers, and I've never really
Yeah.
been able to discern what the core source of the problem is. Talk to us a little bit about the Hitbox Live It Up challenge that did start earlier this week on October 21st. I gave it a kind of a lead in earlier talking about the nature of it. 10,000 euro is a pretty good prize pool, and I have to give you guys some credit. It's a pretty unique approach to try and break into this market. I've never really seen anyone else try something like this. How did you guys come up with that idea, and sort of walk us through how successful you think it will be?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you like the basic idea behind it. Why we did it? I guess when you start a business, especially like the one we have, you can, especially in the streaming business now, you basically have, in my opinion, two ways to approach it. Either you try to get the big names from the very start, try to get big teams, big tournament organizers, stuff like that, and make them come to your platform, even from the very start, which is really hard. Or you can say, well, let's do something for the community. Let's get the community involved. Let's get even the smaller streamers on here, because the challenge as it's set up is made for the quote unquote smaller streamers with like 50 to maybe 1,000 concurrent viewers, the ones that can't really run a profitable stream on another service, and this way they have a reason to come onto our service and try it out and stream and bring the friends and bring the following, bring the community and bring them on here. So yeah, we hope that we can bring people to our site this way and hopefully they will stay as well.
Right. And that was one of the things we talked about earlier, where for established Twitch partners, it's a big gamble because you guys don't have a partner program set up yet. That comes after the challenge is done, where you'll be offering partnerships where folks can actually make ad revenue share. So for those 2 months, it's all about getting viewers to place in the tournament, and that would be your ad rev payout. So when I first read about this, I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. That's really cool. But I started thinking about, well, what happens if in the last 2 weeks, I've been doing okay, pushing viewers. In the last 2 weeks, someone big from Twitch comes in and decides they want to get their share, and they just blow me out of the water. I don't know what League of Legends is going to do. They could decide to switch platforms. I can't compete with those viewer bases, And for me, that's where the risk came in. That made me a little bit nervous. Have you guys thought about that? Is that an issue that you're concerned with this kind of a marketing platform?
Well, obviously, no matter what you do, there are always going to be risks involved. I guess the really big streamers won't really be coming to our platform for this challenge, just because of the fact that in the 2 months this challenge lasts, they can make more with ad revenue share on Twitch than they can win in the challenge, I guess, with that many viewers they have. But as I've said, the smaller ones with like 50 to 1,000 concurrent viewers, something like that, for them, it's hopefully really enticing.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, that is a lot of money. And as I mentioned earlier, for those of us in America, that euro translates to a lot more. It's closer to $5,000 US. So that's even a little bit sweeter. Talk to me about chat functionality. Do you guys have a working chat portion kind of similar to Twitch? Are you guys using IRC? What's your take on that whole thing? And do you think that I'm sort of way off my rocker with not being able to understand why Twitch is the only streaming platform that seems to have a highly functional chat service?
I'm completely in line with you. A functioning good chat is one of the key features every streaming site should have, obviously. Twitch, as far as I know, has an IRC in the background as well. They're running on IRC, and it's working out for them. What we are doing right now is we're building everything from the ground up. When the business started, we basically decided that we wanted to be as flexible as possible. We want to do, no matter what idea might come up in the future, we want to be able to implement it. We want to implement any feature that might come up and might be handy in the future. Right. And so we didn't want to be limited by any external technology.
Interesting. A good approach. As sort of, again, that innovation versus operational excellency. In terms of the partnerships you guys are going to offer, do you have any data? Do you guys know yet what kind of CPM you're going to have? Do you guys have any big advertising partners? Are you going to have ad fill for the whole world? Is it going to be sort of mostly ideal for European, North American? Yeah. I mean, as a rough estimate, could you say that? Go ahead.
Especially in Central and Western Europe, we have ad fill right now. It's all set up and it's all running well. And in the coming weeks, we're basically going to go global with it. Mm-hmm. The same goes for the streaming servers and everything. So come November, I guess our service should run fine for about everybody, hopefully.
And do you have any idea what your CPM is going to be?
Not really. We are in the discussion phases right now. We already have some partners. What we're doing right now is we're going by a case-by-case basis, and we're looking at them, looking at how many viewers they can attract and what region they're coming from, because the CPM you're getting when your viewers are coming from Germany is going to be a completely different one than when you're from Russia. Right. And our approach to the whole thing is that we want to be as flexible as possible, not just from a technology point of view, but also from with the way we treat our partners and organizations we're going to sponsor and stuff like that. Yeah. So we're not going to go with cookie cutter contracts that we'll give out to everybody, but look from it on a case-to-case basis and try to find a way to let the streamers have a bigger chunk of the pie, so to say, if it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, I guess you guys do have plans to sponsor some teams or other organizations that are involved in esports, kind of how Twitch did when they got their foot in the door?
Yeah. Well, what I can say is we right now SK Gaming is already partnered with us. It hasn't really been publicly announced yet, I guess, so this is it, basically.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. There you go.
Yeah. Well, if you've been following Hitbox and have watched some of the streams, you might have have seen the SK guys streaming a few times. Especially the Smite team is very active in streaming on a daily basis. I really enjoy watching them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit, my friend, I wish that I could sort of dabble with this and Twitch, but I worry about pissing off my friends at Twitch, you know, sort of trying to be a front runner. So that's one of those. I have a very long-standing relationship with Twitch TV, and I really do like the model you guys are going for here. And like you said, you're trying to appeal to the sort of larger pool of smaller streamers rather than trying to poach those huge, 10,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch. They're already there. They've got contracts. That's fine. You guys are focusing on, the smaller folks that are having trouble making money at this. And I can appreciate that. I can empathize with that. And you get the Zyori seal of approval for that, my friend. That is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hippie Monolith, do you guys have anything you want to add here before we wrap this up?
No,
not in particular, no.
No? All right, cool. So, Dan, any comments or shout-outs you want to make for us here?
Well, concerning shout-outs, yeah, to the whole Hitbox team. I guess they're listening and laughing at my bad English accent. But in general, the only thing I have left to say is what we are trying to do right now is, and the unique position we're in right now is that we are at the very start of this new streaming site, and this gives us a unique opportunity to get the community involved as much as possible. So to everyone out there listening, just check out Hitbox, set up a stream, try it out, and we are happy about any feedback we're gonna get, be good or bad, and yeah, we kind of, like right now, we really pride ourselves on really fast response times, on support, and getting features implemented really fast that people are demanding and stuff like that.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Make sure you guys follow Hitbox on Twitter at Hitbox Live. That is sort of Dan's Twitter. That's he, as the community manager, that is one of his tasks to manage that. So awesome. Well, thank you for sharing some insight with us. It fit in nicely with our topic today, and I'm glad we were able to get some insight about this new streaming service and what you guys have in store. So with that, we're going to move forward. You're welcome to hang out on the call or drop. It's totally up to you, sir. We've got a few more points. Hippie, I know you're going to have to be leaving us shortly here. So that's no problem, buddy. If you need to scoot out, no worries about that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about before we head towards the outward is more talk about 6.79, and before you get out of here, perhaps you could talk to us about this game, the Mouse versus Property match, where they actually picked a Bloodseeker. And it didn't go as well as we had thought. Bloodseeker, one of those heroes that the changes are awesome, everyone thinks he's going to be OP, but in the end, he's still Bloodseeker. He still has all those same problems where he falls off pretty quickly, and yeah, he can chase people down very easily now, but if you charge in where people still have a lot of health, it doesn't really work out that well. And in that match, he didn't really seem to bring too much to the table.
Yeah, I just think the biggest problem with Bloodseeker is like you mentioned, sure, you get these really cool buffs if you have a bunch of heroes at low health, but you're probably, first of all, if you have more than about 2 or 3 heroes at low health, something's already wrong anyway, because it means you haven't finished anyone off. They're running, they're probably going to get away. And you're not cleaning your plate, to use a fighting game term. Always finish your plate. Don't leave someone alive at low life. Get rid of them. And also, until you have that low health, he's still Bloodseeker. Yeah. He has, no real decent skills. He has mediocre damage. His only way to put out damage without that stacking bonus from Thirst is to silence himself. Mm-hmm. He has Rupture, which, it comes down to...
It's okay.
It's okay. It can be a decent ganking mechanism, but he can't solo gank with it.
Right.
Because if he tries to solo gank with it, you just TP. I mean, he's a hero who's almost hard countered in his ganking potential by a teleport scroll.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's the other thing.
It's really not that good of an ultimate, to be honest. It does a lot of damage, but only if people play badly against it.
Yeah.
And you still, for his ganking potential, almost have to get a Force Staff. And it just ends up like, okay, so now I've spent this, 2,500 gold on an item that's going to make my ultimate a little better. It's going to have some utility, but now I'm getting all these physical bonuses, and what do I do with those? I haven't actually been able to afford to get anything that gives me any kind of physical potency.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And when I was thinking about this change, I had that aha moment where I remembered that Valve doesn't, and all game publishers like this, they don't just balance around the competitive scene. That is a big portion, and they do have to balance around that, but not everybody plays competitively. There are a lot of people that play Dota that just don't watch streams. They pop on for fun, play a couple games, and that's it. And I think this Bloodseeker change sort of caters to those kind of folks, where it's awesome, it changes the state of the game a little bit. It's what I would call a pub change, more so than anything else. And I don't think that these Bloodseeker changes are really going to have a big impact on the meta. Based on that game we saw, I'm having trouble seeing it. And one of the other things I wanted to mention is I saw Night Stalker pick up a Vanguard, and that was a nice little change of pace because Vanguard's an item we see so infrequently. It did get buffed a little bit in 6.79, up from 70% block now to 80. So that's a little better, but still sort of a weak item. I know it had a lot of changes a couple of patches ago where they changed it. What was it before? It would mitigate pre-armor, it would block damage pre-armor mitigation, and now it does it after armor mitigation, so it doesn't block as much. There was some sort of weird change that changed the mechanic of it, and that was part of the reason Vanguard fell off. But I wanted to mention that. And the other piece of 6.79 I wanted to mention here is Dazzle got picked. Oh, Alliance Game 3 yesterday versus Liquid. They did pick Dazzle, and I believe they won that match, but I don't know. Either of you, feel free to take this. Thoughts on Dazzle right now? Is he viable? Is he good? Or is that just one of those matches where Alliance had the upper hand and really any other reasonable support would have done just fine, and it just happened to be Dazzle? Did either of you watch that game by chance?
I did. I caught parts of it. I couldn't catch the whole thing. I do think that the main thing with Dazzle is that you've done two things that have improved the environment for Dazzle. First of all, you've given him a skill set that's more effective with fewer levels because of the changes to Poison Touch and because of the fact that Weave now has that longer duration at lower levels. So, of course, you're not scaling down the armor as quickly, but people can't just wait 10 seconds and like, oh, well, Dazzle's ultimate's off. Guess we can engage now.
Right.
And then on top of that, he's now in an environment where he gets levels more easily. So a support who was previously really, really good with levels, but crippled because you couldn't effectively get him any of them,
right,
now gets some and is more effective at the start as well. Okay. I don't know if Charlie wants to add anything to that.
No, I mean that's pretty much how I feel about him as well. He was, I mean, prior to 6.79, I know there are a lot of teams that were thinking about him as well. Prior to the international, we tried him out a couple times, but I mean, going into a big tournament like that, it's sort of hard to just go for that new support. But he's never been that terrible, and there's probably a lot of room for him before. And now with the recent buffs, I mean, who knows? He might be seeing a lot more picks and bans.
Yeah. Always a fan of Dazzle. I know Hippie and I have talked about this a little bit in private, but Shallow Grave, I think, irrelevant of Dazzle, is just the most powerful spell in the game. I think that has the ability just to change the state of fight so well, and for that, almost that reason alone is why I like seeing Dazzle in those games, because some pretty clutch shit can happen when you've got somebody at 1 health, immune to death for 5 seconds, just running around. I like the core mechanic. What was that that we were talking about, Hippie, with that Nebula was on, where they looked at abilities in a vacuum?
It was Nebula and Luminous. And they were
yeah.
doing one of their, it was, I think, top 5 non-ultimate abilities in a vacuum, irrelevant of what hero they were on.
Right. And I know the other one we mentioned, Rikimaru with the smoke screen, is one that,
I hated that was on no one's list. I think that skill is insane, and if you put it on a support hero, everyone would be like, oh my god, it's god tier, but it's on Rikimaru, so you're like, okay, it's kind of okay because Rikimaru.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. So, we're close to the end of our second episode of the morning show, guys. We do have one more talking point here to talk about, and those are the upcoming matches for today. And there are others, of course. A big shout out to Shiva. Her thread is what drives this little overlay here. But matches coming up for October 10th later today at 1700 CET. We've got WePlay Na'Vi going to be facing off against Empire. We're getting towards the end of the WePlay bracket, so these matches are getting pretty intense. I think this is the beginning of the double elimination bracket today. 1800 CET, the Natalic tournament. It will be Virtus Pro versus Fnatic EU. so that should be a good matchup as well. Then after that, D2CL, they're continuing to not disappoint in terms of their matchups. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can actually watch it today. Alliance versus Virtus Pro to kick things off. Then after that, Charlie's team, Dignitas, will be facing off against Speed Gaming, a.k.a. Kaipi, a.k.a. Rattlesnake International. Monolith, any thoughts about Dignitas versus Speed Gaming? Are you guys prepared? Are you guys going to give them a run for their money?
We'll see what happens. I mean, Speed has been looking really good lately. They work really hard, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's...
I hate giving predictions about my team before the match, so...
All right, fair enough.
That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. So that does pretty much wrap it up, though, guys. I think that's all the content we have for today. This would be the open Q&A section once we get that set up. I did see one question that was posed, and we'll take this for our Q&A hour to wrap it up, and it is Han-related, so I know Hippie's jiggling in his seat right here. Is there any real reason why the interest was lost in Han? And I pulled that question out of chat. Hopefully the viewer is still there. I didn't jot down his name. And I like that question because it's a multifaceted issue, and I've talked about it on several occasions. Hippie, do you want to take a bite into it first? What was the beginning of the big decline in Heroes of Newerth?
Well, we started to hit a decline in Han, first of all, around when the Dota 2 beta started becoming widespread. So we had an alternative to League of Legends that played a lot like the original Dota that was not Han. And that was pretty great. But I think really it was very much, for me, a sense that S2 was trying so hard to force such a gank-heavy, action-packed metagame that they ended up with heroes who just, oh, look, here's a carry who can burst you full to dead.
Yeah.
And, like, for me, let's see here. The heroes that really ruined the game for me, Parasite, Silhouette, and Monkey King.
Oh, God.
And they just
those are three good ones.
Because, I don't want a hero who goes mid, has a combo who can one-shot almost any standard mid, and then that combo scales throughout the entire game. I was just like, are you serious? Are you serious right now?
Yeah. I'm, hold on, I have a little Han thing I can show off here. I'm not a fan of the kind of roll on your keyboard heroes. That's what I don't like about Parasite. You pretty much just hit all the buttons, you do enough burst damage to kill people. It's like, that wasn't even hard. You didn't have to do anything. None of them are skill shots. You just click, 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 click. Oh, yeah, he's dead. I do have a cute little Han keychain, though. I got a DreamHack. This came all the way from Singapore. Garena Han keychain. I'm still decked out with all my Han. I did finally throw away my Han posters, though, that used to be in the background. One of my cats pissed on them, so they weren't too valuable anymore. And, poor Vindicator, and gave him the boot. I would agree with that. I think their meta started to go downhill, but I've always sort of thought of Han as a Dota 1.5. And that's why a lot of people played it. B-Diz talks about this in the Chat Wheel episode he was on the other day that we talked about at the beginning of this episode, where for a while, Han was just a better version of Dota. They were porting Dota heroes, and not all the Dota heroes, but there were... their thing was porting direct Dota heroes. You had Reconnect, there was stat tracking, the engine was a lot more smooth, all that stuff. So at first I was like, this game's awesome, I love it. And then there came that point. Puck was the last hero that they, Bubbles in Han, was the last hero that they ported directly from Dota. And that was when all the rights fighting started between Blizzard and Valve and S2. And that was the point where they said, okay, you're not allowed to copy off of Dota anymore. Now you have to start being your own game. And that was the point where the game slowly started to fall apart. The more Han tried to differentiate itself from Dota, I think the worse it got. Because you have sort of the three big players in MOBA. You've got League, Han, Dota 2, right? And League, their core market is very obvious. The casuals. They made their game much, much easier. Much mechanically less stressful. No denying, lower APM, kind of a lower skill cap, all that kind of stuff. Dota's the opposite. Hardcore competition. You're incentivized to kill people. You lose gold when they die, so you can shut people down. You want to gank them, smoke at a seat, get aggressive. So those are your two polar opposites. Where's Han? And they sort of couldn't make up their mind about what they wanted to do. They're stuck in the middle here, saying, well, we kind of want some casual people to play our game, but we do kind of want to be competitive. We just kind of want everybody to play our game. So they never had a clear focus. And I think that was sort of their ultimate demise. And now that Dota 2 is out, what is Han? Well, if it was Dota 1.5, Dota 2 is out, why would you want to play Han if it's Dota 1.5? And that was kind of my mindset. And, of course, on top of that, S2 is a company that has tended to make some silly decisions. They're a young company, very independent, and they're dead set in their method of figuring it out for themselves. And I think a lot of their bad press could have been avoided in the past had they reached out and just paid some professionals to come in and give them advice and, you know, show them how to do stuff. Han Tour Finals for Season 1, perfect example. All they had to do was hire a production team that was semi-competent instead of putting Milkfat's friends that they had just hired in charge of the TriCaster and the camera work. So instead of an awesome professional production from Vegas, we got a dark room with some computers and a smoke machine on a basketball court. That was just laughable. So I think it's an array of all that. And also, Valve and Riot are just really smart companies that are very forward-thinking, and I hate to say it, but they just make S2 look bad with their decision-making. I have very few complaints with the way Valve has been handling Dota 2 since they picked up the project. Monolith, do you have a Han background? Do you have anything you want to add there?
I played Han for just a little bit, for maybe 100 games. But so I mean, my experience in Han is pretty limited. I moved to the game when I thought it was going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
It was, I was tired of Dota 1. I was tired of dealing with lag, terrible pubs.
Right.
So I moved on. It wasn't exactly the same. And after about 100 games, I went back to Dota 1.
Oh, okay. It's not a bad run. You gave it 100 games is pretty good. That's a fair trial, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it its fair shot, but it just didn't have the same feel for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I might be a little biased because my, both Hippie and I worked for Honcast, and I don't know how your exodus was. Mine was okay, but I don't know. I got into it with them a little bit. They offered me a full-time position to be Breaky's number 2, their co-caster, and I turned it down because I didn't want to be a slave to marketing Heroes of Newerth for the rest of my days. I should have taken it, though. I should have done exactly what Trouf did. They hired Trouf instead of me, and he stayed for 6 months, got to travel around the world, and then quit. And that was it, and has some professional casting experience on his resume. That's exactly what I should have done. The EP at the time told me to do that, and I said, no, that's rude. I'm not going to take a job with the plan to quit. It's a dog-eat-dog world, man. You got to look out for number 1. That's what I learned from working with S2. But that wraps it up, guys. That's all we got. That was a good question. Whoever posted that, I don't have your name, but thank you. Thank you for that nice little bit of off-topic discussion to wrap things up. So with that, guys, remember, you can email into the show, and that is morningshow@dotaradio.com. Morningshow@dotaradio.com. Feel free to drop us a line, content you want to see, content you didn't like that we covered, really anything. That is your open portal to communicate with us, good, bad. We are all ears, and this will be the portal again, dotaradio.com/morningshow. There is the podcast feed, and you can check that out. The Twitters are on the individual cam splashes here. It's at HippieCasting for our mechanics guy. Tweet at him, tell us what you want him to analyze, and he will be more than happy to do it. Monolith as well. Anyone you want to see on the show who you think would be a cool guest, tweet at him, at Monolith Dota, and I am at Zyori TV or at the Dota Radio. So guys, it's always a pleasure here. Glad we're able to get another good episode in the books. Any closing thoughts here before we wrap it up and roll the credits?
Not on my end.
Sounds like a big negative.
Nope.
Awesome. Well, guys, we will have another episode coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, we are still lining up a guest for tomorrow. We will be tweeting, so make sure you get at the social media, and the archive for this will be up as soon as the episode is finished. So until tomorrow, guys, be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. We'll see you on another cast.